Hi, it's Paul here from selfoutforlife.com, and today I'm going to talk about the 10 brutal truths about life that no one wants to hear. Now, I've been on this planet now for nearly half a century, and a lot has happened during that time. A lot of it's been really good. Some things have not been so great, but a lot has happened. And over that time, I've learned a few truths about life. And you might have watched other videos or read other articles on the brutal life truths. So what I thought I would do is share my experiences of what I feel the brutal life truths are based on my own experience. So brutal truth number 1, life is not fair. We're not born equal. When I was at school, I was the skinny, weak, short kid. I was the kid that was very poor at sports. I hated sports. There were other kids that were much taller, strong, they were much more athletic, and they were the popular kids at school. I wasn't so much. My interests and passions were more around music. I was a musical kid. But even then I found that a struggle. I played the French horn at school, and I played in an orchestra where there was another kid who was a better French horn player than I was, and also played 2 other instruments. So somehow he was so gifted that he could become really proficient on 3 instruments, as I could only manage 1. And also he was very happy-go-lucky. He didn't seem to practice that much. He just naturally seemed to have the gift of the gab in a way with music. So I found that very frustrating because I was working very hard to get better at my French horn playing at the time. And then last year I had a friend that died of brain cancer. And he was in his early 40s, and he's the kind of person, he looked after himself. He didn't smoke, he didn't drink excessively or anything like that. So why him? Why was it him that died of brain cancer rather than someone else? And you know, you look every day, there's children that die of cancer. So why is it happens so young to them? You know, what's fair about that? And then, you know, at work you find there's people who get promoted that seem to have less skills and experience than you, less of those good qualities that good employees have. And you think, well, why them? Why did they get the promotion and not me? Okay, so life is not fair. And you know, in the animal world, animals eat other animals, sometimes with extreme cruelty. So what's fair about that? So really the reality is that life is not fair, and that fairness is actually a human invention. It's us humans that created the whole concept of fairness. Okay, so life is not fair. We've just created this idea that we believe that life should be fair. So the second brutal truth about life is behavior never lies. What you say you're going to do and what you actually do are totally different. And this idea came from Gary Ryan Blair at the 100-Day Challenge. So when you're looking at what you're doing and what other people are doing, look at what they actually do, not what they say. Let's give you an example here. So let's say someone's talking about becoming really super fit and healthy, and they're talking about all the things they're going to do that. And then you see them in McDonald's eating junk food. Well, what message is that going to give to you? That's going to give you a mixed message, because you've heard all the things that they're going to do to become super fit, and now you're seeing them doing something that goes against that. So that's going to give you mixed messages. That's going to reduce trust. So it's really important that A, you do the things you say you're going to do, and that when you notice other people, focus more on what they do, not what they say, because behavior never lies. Now, some other examples of behavior never lies could be managers at work. So if you're a manager at work, this is an important one. If you tend to be quite lazy and quite relaxed about things, then it's probably not surprising that you'll find your employees are as well, because they'll follow what you do much more than what you say. And this can work in a positive way as well. If you're very proactive and you really look after your staff and that kind of thing, then you'll find that your employees will do the same as well. They'll work well with their colleagues, they'll respect their colleagues, that kind of thing. Because behavior never lies. It's what you do that matters, not what you say you're going to do. Now let's say you have kids and you say to your kids, it's really important to be honest and trusting. And then at work you're dishonest and you're doing and saying things to try and get maybe one over someone else, then clearly there's a disconnect there. So behavior never lies. Always focus much more on what someone does rather than what they say, and make sure that your behavior never lies as well. So brutal life truth number 3 is sometimes you'll never know the answer. So two things happened in January 2016 that I've been trying to grasp and make sense of ever since. So the first thing that happened was a friend was diagnosed with brain cancer. He was in his early 40s and he died 2.5 years later. Also in the same month, a neighbour who was retired and living a great life, travelling 3 or 4 months of the year. She had loads of friends, she was bubbly, positive, always a joy to be around, suddenly committed suicide. So we have two people here, one that desperately wanted to live, that got cancer, and then we had another person who seemed to have it all, but inside must have been suffering excruciating mental pain that was so great that she couldn't go on with life. So in both cases, I asked myself why, and I agonised for hours over the answer. You know, in the case with my friend with cancer, I always felt that there was usually some kind of underlying reason or something that happens in someone's life that causes that cancer to happen. You know, sometimes it can be simple things like diet and exercise. Sometimes it can be unresolved emotional issues or stress. But I started to question that. I thought maybe that's not the case. Maybe it just happens for some people, going back really to that idea that life is not fair. So sometimes you just never know the answers to some of the things that happen in life. You'll just never know. And you just got to be okay, or I found I just had to be okay with just being able to let go with finding a reason. So the fourth brutal truth about life is that you never know exactly what someone else is thinking and feeling. So when our neighbour committed suicide, it came as a complete shock both to me, my wife, our neighbours and everyone else who knew her. You know, from the outside she was bubbly, she was fun, she was energetic, full of energy, friendly, and was living the kind of lifestyle that I would certainly dream about. The travel, the friends and all the fun things that she was doing. But none of us, except perhaps for her partner, knew exactly what was going on inside her head, the thoughts and feelings she was having. Another example could be when someone passes you in a corridor at work and doesn't smile. What does that mean? Well, you might think it means that they're ignoring you, but we don't really know what they're thinking or feeling. Perhaps they've got an important deadline and they're thinking about that. Perhaps they had an argument with their partner in the morning and they're ruminating about that. Perhaps they've had a lack of sleep, so they just feel tired, so they're just not really very aware of what's going on. There could be so many reasons. You just don't really know what someone is thinking or feeling. And what we often tend to do is we tend to put the meaning on us. So just remember now that you never know exactly what another person is thinking or feeling. So my brutal truth number 5 is that happiness is an inside job. So think about the things that make you happy. For me, going on holiday makes me happy. The enjoyment of going to new places and exploring different parts of the world. In the past, getting a new job has made me happy because it's been great to meet new people and do different things and have that added variety. 10 years ago, coming to live in Sydney made me very happy. And, you know, enjoying the new city, exploring. All our weekends felt like we were on holiday as we explored the city and the surrounding areas. The weather's wonderful and it seemed to be a more relaxed lifestyle compared to what we were used to in the UK. And all these things are great and they do give you happiness, but it tends to be short-term pleasure, short-term joy and short-term gratification. Why? Because something called the law of familiarity kicks in, and I'm sure you've experienced this. When you've been around anything new and different for long enough, you begin to take it for granted. It becomes familiar. It becomes the new normal. This wonderful weather that we have in Sydney starts to become familiar. It starts to become the new normal. And all the other things that we do here start to become normal again. Life just starts to become familiar. So the key message here is that achieving things in life won't make you happy long term. They will in the short term, but long term they won't make you happy. I mean, many people feel that, you know, they go through life, they say, well, when I leave school, I'll be happy. So they go to college or university and they find that that's not it. So they think, well, when I leave university and I have some money and a job, then I'll be happy. And then they start working, they realize, well, that's not it either. So then they think, or when I get in a relationship and when I get married, I'll be happy then when I find that perfect person. So they do that, and of course that's wonderful, but again it starts to become familiar and the new normal after a while. So then maybe they think, well, when I buy a house I'll be happy, or then when I have kids. And then logically it goes to, well, when I retire I'll be happy. So when I can finally give up work and retire, that's when I'll be happy. Okay, it just isn't like that, because that will just become the new normal, the new familiarity. So a really, really important brutal life truth really is that happiness is an inside job. It's not something you chase from achieving things on the outside. And it's almost like there's a limiting belief that when I do something, or when I achieve something, or when I buy something, I will then be happy. But that's not true. So the truth about happiness is that it's something that's created inside. It's an inside job, and you can choose to be happy whenever you want. You can choose to be happy right now, simply by being grateful for what is working in your life and all the things you do have, by developing a happy posture, so smiling, by listening to some uplifting music that will change your mental state, and by doing something you enjoy right now. So I think there's a balance here. I find that often what makes me happy is having quality time with my wife and close friends, also going out with nature, but also having a variety in life as well. So if you can have quite a lot of different variety in your life, then that law of familiarity will still kick in. But because you're doing enough different things, you're getting those short-term happiness fixes as well. So I think in reality, it is a combination. It is very much an inside job. But if you can do some of those things that you know make you happy and do those regularly, then I feel that can help as well. So my brutal truth number 6 is that time is more valuable than money. So you can replace money, but you cannot replace time. Time depreciates. It is a depreciating asset. Once that minute or day or month has gone, you can never get it back. So it's important to use time wisely. And it's interesting, the link between time and money, because research has shown that you do need a certain amount of money to live a reasonably okay life, so that all your basics are covered. And that is around $60,000 to $70,000 a year. Okay? So anything above that is lovely. It allows you to afford the luxuries. It allows you maybe to have people who can do things for you, like do the cleaning. So that can save you some time. However, if you're doing a job you hate, working crazy hours, perhaps to fund that lavish house, that lavish car, having your kids at private school, then perhaps it's time to reevaluate the value of time. Most people don't value time. They'll do things they hate just to have that money, and they end up wasting their life away and then regretting that later. So make sure that you use time to do what matters for you. What is going to give you meaning in your life? What is going to make you happy? So use time wisely and make sure that you really value all the time you have available, because you can never replace it. So brutal truth number 7, and this is a bit morbid. You will die one day, and so will all your friends, family and loved ones. Now, we don't know when this is going to happen. Could be today, could be tomorrow, could be next week, could be this year, could be next year. Hopefully it's going to be a long time from now, like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 or even 50 years from now. And we tend to forget that this day will come. Now, you may well have heard this saying, live every day as if it was your last, because one day it will be. Now, I don't completely buy into that saying. If I was doing that, then I would be on holiday 365 days a year, traveling the world, exploring, having adventures, and I'd probably be broke within a week. So we've got to be realistic here. We do need money to survive and to make a living. So I don't completely buy into that statement. However, there are things that you can do. If there are things you've been putting off that could be quite easy to deal with, then definitely have that sense of urgency to do that, whether it's something like maybe changing a job or career and you've been putting that off for a while. I really like Gary Ryan Blair's quote, which is, "We are all playing a high stakes game of one and done." So we're not on this planet for long, so it's important that we have a sense of urgency about the things we do in life, and we don't put off things for too long that we know are important to us. And often it's the fear that gets in the way of doing what really matters. You know, if you knew you were going to die next week, there's probably things that you fear doing now that you would do. So death also can be a reminder to enjoy life and to make the most of it and to have a sense of urgency around that. And remember that your friends, family and loved ones will also die at some point. It may be before you, it may be after you. So it's really important to spend quality time with them right now while you still can. And at some point in the future, I will be dead. Someone will be watching this video and I will no longer be around. Cripes, that's a sobering thought. I think it's time to move on to the next brutal life truth, which is some people won't like you. They will judge and criticize you. It's impossible to please everyone. Whatever you do in life, whatever you say, you're likely to upset some people some of the time. So don't get out of your way to try and get everyone to like you. It's just not worth it, okay? So some people are naturally negative. Some people are difficult to please. Some people will always focus on what's wrong and will not be grateful. And there's nothing really that you can do to change that. So, you know, when you're walking on the street, people will notice you and will judge you with what you're wearing and how you're holding yourself. You're probably judging me while you're watching this video. Maybe you're noticing the clothing that I'm wearing. Maybe there's certain mannerisms I do. Maybe there's certain words that I often say. So people naturally judge other people. It's just part of the human condition. And also, when you step out of the crowd, when you do something that other people don't do, then those people will start to feel a little bit afraid because they see that you're taking responsibility, you're doing things to really change your life, and they will feel in some way that maybe you're a threat to them and they will start to criticize you. So the more that you go out of your way to do different things and to really become your own person and to strive to be more, the more that certain people, certain loved ones in your life will criticize you. And they're not doing that to help you, they're doing that because they're afraid that you're going to be something different or someone different to maybe what they're familiar with. Also, people judge, criticize and put you down to help them feel better. It's a way of enhancing their self-esteem. So brutal truth number 9, it won't just happen now like it used to. When I look back at my parents and my uncles and aunts, their life seemed quite easy and predictable in a way. You know, they went to school, they then went to university, they met their partners at university, they then got jobs in their early 20s, often stayed in the same job or career for many, many years. They would get married in their 20s, have kids quite young, and they'd be able to buy their own house because houses were quite cheap then. And then now they're living a very happy retirement. And, you know, it was easy for them because, as I say, houses were cheap. Pension schemes were a lot better as well. So now these people are having really, really great retirements. And it seems like things have changed now. You know, most people in their 20s and 30s, a lot of people haven't met their partners, and also a lot of people are renting. And even if they have met someone, they're still renting into their 30s and 40s. I know people with kids that are renting here in Australia, here in Sydney. So a lot has changed, and it seems like the things that were predictable and just happened in the past aren't anymore. It's like nothing is guaranteed. Look at anyone that's earning 6 figures. They will have worked incredibly hard to get to that level over a number of years. Maybe they have multiple degrees or qualifications to get there as well. Look at anyone who's in a great relationship. You'll find that it took a lot of effort to get to that stage in the first place, and they're continually working on making that relationship great. That's really important now. And I think actually the reason for that is we have much higher expectations. So in some ways, we need to put a lot more effort into things that maybe in previous generations they didn't do. They kind of settled for less in a way. So don't just think that these important life events are just going to happen, that you're going to have a great job with 6 figures when you're 35 or 40, that you're going to naturally find the perfect person. It doesn't work like that anymore. So what you need to be doing is thinking about what you want to achieve and by when you want to achieve it. And then you want to start doing the things today that are going to help you get to that goal. So you want to be proactive and be doing things every day to help you achieve that goal. So that's choices, different sacrifices you might need to make, connections, meeting other people, and doing all the things that you need to do to get there. So don't just assume that things will happen. Don't take them for granted when they do happen. Take the steps to do that. Now, one of my favorite inspirational quotes is, you will be rewarded in public for the thousands of hours that you practice in private. You can apply that to so many areas of life, especially studying, gaining qualifications, also starting and developing businesses. All these things often require a sacrifice where you're spending time away from family and friends, you're spending time by yourself to get good at something. So you're going to get those results and the rewards in public later. So my last brutal truth, so number 10, is you are 100% responsible for changing your life. So as soon as you blame something else, you could blame the economy, you could blame your level of intelligence, you could blame your family, you could blame the weather, you could blame where you live, you could blame your height, your genetics, your weight, your looks. There's so many other things you can blame. Whenever you blame something else, you take away the power to change. Now, bad things do happen, terrible things happen, but you have complete control over the meaning you give to those things. I don't actually buy into the idea that you create all these bad things in your life or all these good things in your life. I don't buy into that personally. I know some people do, but I certainly buy into the idea that if something happens that's really, really devastating or really bad, that you do have 100% control over the meaning you give to that and the actions that you take to get over that. And there have been so many stories of people that have been like almost entirely crippled, that have begun to visualize their bodies moving again and becoming able to have mobility again. So in my hypnotherapy practice, I'm always helping people to take responsibility for whatever it is in their life, helping them get back to cause rather than being at effect. So effect is when you're blaming other people and other situations for your life. Getting to cause is when you're taking 100% responsibility. So I'm always looking at that spectrum of where they are on either the effect scale or the cause scale and helping them get back to cause. So really important to take responsibility. Take responsibility for your happiness. Take responsibility for your unhappiness. Take responsibility for your successes and also for your failures. So these are my 10 brutal truths about life that no one wants to hear, based on my experience of life so far. So I hope you found this video useful. I hope you found it inspiring and motivating as well. And if you did, please give it a like, please give it a thumbs up, and do leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. And also do subscribe to this channel and click the bell notification. That way you will always be notified whenever I release future videos just like this one. And also go and check out my website if you haven't already. That is selfhelpforlife.com. On my website, you will find the written versions to many of these videos, along with a link to my podcast and social media channels as well. So I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I look forward to sharing more great content with you very soon. Bye for now.